Hi, this is Myra with Boutique Paint. We've just received the new paint inlays, and when I saw the video of the sisters explaining what they were, I thought that seems a little complicated. And so I tried it last night on a sample board and it turned out so awesome. But I thought I should share with you a quick how-to, because it really is easy to do. So I got a sample board here, and this is one of the paint inlay styles. This is the other one, and they're just so pretty. So the idea behind these is the paint is on top of this paper, and it's their own formula of how they came up with this product. And so the paint sits on top of this, and then we're going to transfer this paint onto whatever surface you're wanting to transfer it onto. Dresser, today it's this piece of wood. So I drew around the size of my board. I'm just gonna cut this out real quick. And then we're gonna add a fairly heavy coat of paint onto the board. Things are shifting behind me. That's never good. I don't know if you can see how thick of a coat of paint I'm putting on here. On the raw wood, basically my idea is, well, and it probably would work if you're painting a piece of furniture too, is on the first coat, we don't always cover, you know, thickly. We don't put a thick coat onto the furniture. We do it in a couple coats. And so this is a little different because we're putting a little bit of a thick coat on. If you're doing a piece of furniture, you could put one coat on and then do this with your second round of paint. You could also do this with clear, like your top coat, a top coat. It does have certain, it has to be like a chalk style paint. So if you're using like a clear coat or something, you may need to experiment on a sample board first, make sure it's going to work. So I'm just going to set this right down on top, and you don't want to really rub it a whole lot because you don't want the paper to tear. It's pretty sturdy. But that being said, the nice thing about these is you can use the paper a couple times. With each use though, it becomes a little less vibrant, gives you more of a shabby paint look, which is great for those of us who love that look. I'm taking a wet paper towel. You can use a sponge. You could use, you know, a foam brush that's just water on it and pat it down. You could use a spray bottle. I could show you what happens with the spray bottle. You can see it changes colors. So we're basically making the back of it wet. And you're like, well, I just put that on wet paint. It's all good. So you're just blotting this on, putting a little bit of pressure. I don't know if you can see, there is some little bit of wrinkling. That's okay. We're just going to give this a good soaking, and then we're going to let it dry. And that time period takes anywhere, depending, you know, how fast chalk style paints dry. They can be really quick sometimes. But that being said, we put on a thick coat and then we watered it down. So, you know, and humidity and whatnot, it could take up to an hour probably to get completely dry. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to come back. Okay, we're back, and these are dry to the touch. I've already re-moistened this. So basically what I did is I took that same paper towel, well, that wasn't the one because that's got blue on it, and just kind of dabbed it on, just like you did when you placed the piece on to begin with. You're just re-wetting the top of this. And then, or you can spray it. I'll show you what it looks like when you spray it. If you don't have a sprayer, just go ahead and take a paper towel and just dab it and get it wet. When I did my first sample board, I did it all with a paper towel and it worked just fine. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start pulling it off carefully. I'm going to actually leave that down there. And you're just going to pull it. And the reason why you're kind of careful is because you can reuse these. You're going to get not as definite of a impression reusing them, and I'll show you the difference here in a minute. But you can still use them for 2, maybe 3 times depending. There we go. And so just set this aside flat on either like a paper towel or a piece of cardboard or something so it can dry out. Just set that aside. You can tell here that where the creases were in the paint when you laid it down, and then there was creases, so that there is a little bit of character. I think personally that just adds to the overall look of it. I can show you, and I'm using DIY paint with all of these. This one did it, but I just love what happened with this. I mean, it just gave it so much character. This is not sealed yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to some of these lines, but it almost added to the whole overall funky look of it. When I first saw these flowers, I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of old school. But then, now that I put it on something, I am just loving it. And you do get imperfections. You're getting imperfections here and here. And that is the nature of the product. It's not a perfect transfer. But that being said, it is gorgeous. So this was the sample board I did yesterday. Let's take this guy off. Look how beautiful this one is. Wow. I didn't use this inlay yet, but that is turning out so pretty. So if you're one of those people that likes things, you know, being a little bit more on the perfect side, you may want to, oops, I'm dripping paint. You may want to, you know, work on the technique of getting your paint on there, and then this on as perfect as you can. I don't mind this look. I'm good with it, but I know a lot of people, it's not their thing. I gotta put this aside. And remember, when you're storing those, store them with the paint facing up. Otherwise, you're gonna put this impression on whatever you lay it on. So those are those two. These are closer up. This is my bleed over. Now, I don't know if you've seen, but one of the pictures that the sisters did, this is a little bit smeared. And they actually did that on purpose. So you could actually take a paper towel afterwards and just kind of give it a wipe down. Because this is still activated, it's the same as wet paint. You can move it around and give it a more all over, I don't know, kind of a less perfection look once again. So that's kind of fun. All right, then we have this one. This one I went ahead and I used Big Top on this to see how that would work. And hopefully it didn't dry. I think I got it too dry. I wetted it and then I took too much time. This is definitely keeping a lot more paint on the board, it feels like, than the the paint was. So that's with Big Top, which is a, which is stuck to my counter, which is a top coat finish. Set that one aside. And then I have one more because I want to show you the difference of the first impression and a second impression. So this is the second time I've used this piece of paper, or this inlay. I was even thinking, you know, if you really want to get carried away as far as being able to use your product, even after a couple times of use with this, well, no, you got the lines, but you could cut this out and you could use it. You could do different things if you were doing layers. I forgot there was guidelines on these. I was thinking, God, this is almost as good as tissue paper in a lot of ways. So once again, just wetting down. And if you happen to get a little, you know, tear or whatever, that's okay. You can still reuse the paper. So this is using it the second time. Now I'm using this on a darker board, so it's not showing up as much. But once it dries, I think it'll show up even better because this is the same color paint. This is it dried, and then this is it wet. So I think that once this dries, it'll show up, but it's really kind of funky and very shabby chic. A lot of fun. These sample boards, if you want to just give it a try and do sample boards just to kind of get a feel before you actually use it on a project. Although, honestly, after trying this, I would be more than happy myself to jump in on a project without doing a sample board. But you can do the sample boards up, and then you can use them for backdrops with, like, maybe I have one of the IOD new molds, the frame molds, and you could do a picture, and then you could do that on a little easel, or put a little peg in the back to hold it. With the shipping being what it is right now for Christmas, it would probably be a good idea to think of different ideas for Christmas projects. I am hoping that the beginning of November, I'm going to start doing Christmas ahead of time this year. Usually I do the videos for first week in December, but I think I'm going to try to start getting them out the first 2 weeks of November, because people need ideas. You have product, you need to use your product so that you can create some beautiful gifts. Thank you so much for joining me. Also, I'm hoping I can remember as soon as I get in the house, but I'm going to put some of these sample boards on the website. So if you put in the search bar sample boards, these will pop up. I'm not sure which category I'm going to put it under. I'll probably put it maybe in a couple places. So these are just thin plywood boards, but they're perfect for doing some samples, giving little projects. But you can also use them for real projects as opposed to just samples. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions about our products, you can look them up on our website at www.boutiquepaint.com.